Hi, I'm Blaine,
And I'm John.
and welcome to this episode of Textbook Technique, a comprehensive guide to ballet training. In the last episode, Jonathan and I started teaching you the Tchaikovsky pas de deux variation, choreographed by George Balanchine. We showed about half or a little less than half of the variation. Today, we're going to finish it and give you tips on getting through it and really working on it. Before we start, we're going to play the variation one more time so you can review what we taught and kind of see what's coming up. You may notice a different change of scenery. We just got kicked out of the other studio, so we're going to finish the episode in here. Back to what I was saying. After the seesaws, the next step is the coupe assemblé. This step is what travels you across the stage horizontally. This is important because you really want to get lift in the air. I'm going to do a small seesaw, but really show you a big assemblé to move me through the space. What you don't want to do is assemblé under yourself. That looks bad and you won't travel at all. This is what that looks like. I'm not traveling at all. You want to do a big one and really travel with it. The last important part about this sequence is the port de bras and épaulement, which is the use of the arms and head with the step. I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like without doing the legs, but just the arms. For the low seesaw, I'm going to use low arms. I'm going to use my head and flow with the arms in the direction I'm moving. So it will look like this. I'm going to go through a low position, transition through into a higher position for the développé seesaw. Repeat that, low, high. You want to look out towards your arms for the développé. Always towards the direction you're moving in. Da, 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 da. For the assemblé, coupe, under, arms in a lengthened position facing the opposite direction. This adds a nice change of dynamic for the step. After you perform that step twice, the seesaw combination, which is low seesaw, then seesaw développé, after you finish your last ensemble into a fifth position, there are a few things you can do, but each of these things involve entrechaussees. You remember entrechaussees from our last episode, which is when you beat the legs 3 times in the air. Multiple variations can include less or more entrechaussees. The video that we showed you at the beginning of the episode involves 4 entrechaussees into a relevé arabesque. This is important because it is an impressive step that demonstrates the men's jump in the variation. I will now demonstrate the 4 ceases that I prefer to do with the arabesque at the end. Then we will show you variations on what you could do after the ceases. As I said earlier, at this point in the variation, you're probably starting to get really tired and you're starting to feel, the exhaustion and your stamina deplete. This is why the use of the port de bras is really important. Like I said earlier, it helps you make it through each step. So for the entrechaussees, it's important to use your arms in a flowing pattern to really lift your upper body and make the step easier to do. Now, after the entrechaussees is another one of those cool down moments I told you about. You'll do your 3 or 4 entrechaussees and hit the arabesque. The arabesque is optional. You can do your entre-chassisses and then just a susu. What happens next is you walk to the back of the room to perform the final pass, the double tour sequence. This is where you need to really take time and catch your breath and kind of relieve yourself. Don't get off the music, but it's just important to really think about where you are in the variation and how you're breathing and using your breath. So I'm gonna do the 4 ceases. I prefer the arabesque. I'm gonna do the arabesque and hold it for a second, really catch my breath, and I'm going to walk or run briefly to the back of the studio where I'll complete the final pass of the variation. It's just really important to use this time wisely to catch your breath because the variation's almost over and you're probably really tired. Although these are runs, this is still a classical ballet variation. So you really want to keep an elegance and lightness with the step. You're going to perform your pique and then you're just going to be really light about it before the next position. You don't want them to see how hard you're working in the variation, and that's a very easy moment to slip up and to forget what you're doing. The last and final sequence of this variation is the tombe coupe ballonnet double tour section. This is where things start to really get intense because your body is exhausted, but you're almost to the end of the variation. You can't get ahead of yourself and imagine that you're already done. You have to stay in the moment. For this step, after you run to your position, you're gonna hold it for a second, and then it gets very musical. You hear when you're supposed to start on the music. Tombe, coupe, ballonnet, step, bit, double, tour. That was a very slowed down version. You do this 3 times in succession. This, like I said, is where things get very difficult because it's a very kind of taxing and exhausting step. So you want to make sure you remember all of your checklists for your double tours and your positions so you know that you're always doing the correct thing. I'm going to go over a few things to remember of this last sequence. Your port de bras, like through the whole variation, is extremely important. It helps keep your body lifted and brings you into the air. So when you do your coupe, you don't want to hold this position too long. You want to really cut under into the ballonnet. This is when your arm goes up and your head kind of has a nice extended angle out. I'll just show that one more time. Tombe, coupe, ballonnet, step, your double tour. With the ballonnet, the leg is at a 90-degree position. Any higher and it looks almost ridiculous. You want to keep it nice, clean, and even, so 90 degrees is the perfect height. Your foot is lengthened, your quads are pulled up, and you bring it, as soon as you're done with the ballonnet, you bring it back under the coupe as fast as possible. That's when the small, not a large assemblé forward comes in. Unlike the assemblés traveling to the side, this assemblé doesn't take you too far forward because you want to stay over yourself before the double tour. Now is the big step everyone's waiting for, the double tour. You finish your coupe ballonnet into the assemblé. For the double tour, it's important to do it quickly, concisely, but still high in the air because you need to do it 3 more times in the variation. So the first time you're going to go coupe, ballonnet, assemblé, double tour, land, and hold the position, coupe again, back under to repeat. Those were the incorrect way to land because I was falling all over the place, but you get the point. In the video shown, you can see how quick it is and how musical it is, so you have to always remember where you are in the variation so you don't get off the music. So you finish the 3 double tours in the sequence that follows. You think you're done with the variation. Not quite. You have the final push, and this is the pirouette at the end. This is the last big step that everyone sees that finishes the variation off in a very elegant fashion. This is your choice. You can do the pirouette to a double tour to the knee, or just a clean pirouette to the knee. But always remember, do not sacrifice cleanliness for numbers. If you think you can do 4 pirouettes consistently and you're practicing them in the studio and they're working out, then that's fine, as long as they're on the music and you finish with the music. If you can only do 3, then just do 3. The whole variation is impressive in and of itself. So 10 pirouettes at the end isn't going to make that much of a difference. But always remember this. The audience remembers the beginning and the end of the variation. It's always important to finish strong, which is why it's important to be clean rather than be ugly. A very clean and elegant way to sacrifice numbers for cleanliness is to do a clean triple pirouette and finish an Alice cone, then bring it down to the knee. If you hold at the last pirouette and develop to Alice cone and really hold that position, it looks way better than doing 5 or 6 sloppy pirouettes. Thanks for watching this episode of Textbook Technique. We hope you really understand how to do the Chai Pa variation now. Remember that practice makes perfect. Don't expect to get the variation on the first try. Practice it in sections that we demonstrated, like the first pass. Then repeat that until you really feel like you have it in your body. This will also help build your stamina. Again, thanks for watching this episode. We'll see you next time.